Welcome everybody. Get seated, take your places because time is tight. Very good. Let me tell you a story to introduce maybe the next panel. I went to drama school, started 1994 to 1997 for 3 years. After that I moved to Hamburg to work as an actor, and I spoke to many productions, TV companies and theaters. And I heard three answers most of the time. Oh, we already have a black actor. The second was, we have no roles for black people. And the third answer was, fuck off. They didn't say that, but I saw that behind their eyes. Yeah, I didn't go to drama school to act as a black person. That was all my life. I just learned to act. Now, 25 years later, I think I kind of made it in German TV as a host and actor. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a very famous person in Germany here. We all, but nobody knows. And I'm just trying to connect with the African filmmakers here. If I had to leave Germany after the election, I'm connected with African people. You don't know what's happening in a few years, so you have to be prepared. So here I am. And getting ready for the future. And we're talking about people making career in film business now. At Next, and leaving up your lands, navigating career development, training and residencies and filmmaking. And I think it's not about talent, it's about having the right network, about getting access to the business and to the industry. So it's about who you know and how to get into the business. And now I think we're at a different point than we were 25 years ago. Black peoples and Afro-diasporan producers and filmmakers are already in the business. Now it's about training programs, about residencies, mentorship. So let's try to shape the future, and we dive into the panel talk at this moment. I'd like to welcome the acting executive director from film AlUla in Saudi Arabia, Zaid Shakir. Welcome on stage. And Jerry Alwaz, Executive Secretary, African Film Institute, and working for the African Union, just arrived from Addis Ababa. Jerry Alwaz. Hosted by the actors, screenwriter, producer, founder, and Perennial Lens co-founder, 3A African Artists Association for UK, USA, Grenada, and Germany. Rodney Charles, he's the host. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, good sir. I appreciate you. And thank you for stepping in such a last minute to actually facilitate this. Can I ask everyone to do me... Rodney Charles is my name. I'm forgetting my manners. I'll do a proper job of introduction. My name is Rodney Charles. I am, in addition to being an actor, writer, director, producer, all of these things, I'm also the vice president of the African Artists Association, which is based in Los Angeles, California. It is an institution that's been set up to basically demystify the entertainment industry, and we have a very strong passion for ensuring that individuals intergenerationally learn from each other and to be able to kind of keep us moving forward. And when I say us, I mean as a human collective. Because if one part of the family is dysfunctional or suffering, then we all invariably are affected. So as such, I'm particularly passionate about the conversation I'm going to have today because, of course, we're dealing with like developing and leveling up, as we see here in these development training and residency filmmaking initiatives. And so I have with me Terry and Zaid, and I'd like you, if you would, to introduce yourselves and also tell us a little bit about your institutions and what it is exactly that they do. Start with Zaid.
First of all, thank you for having us. We're really thrilled to be here. My name is Zaid Shakir. I am the acting executive director of Film AlUla, which is like a film agency, or think of it as a film commission tasked with positioning AlUla as a landmark hub within for the screen industry within the region. AlUla is a regional location within the northwest of Saudi Arabia. It's very, very rich, and it has generous wealth of beautiful landscapes and locations It's a cinematic wonder. We always refer to it as a cinematic wonder. So basically, we're trying to build a film ecosystem within AlUla. Not trying, we're almost there.
Absolutely.
And that's about it, yeah.
Terry, can you tell me the same about your...
Yeah, about the African Film Institute. So, African, but our journey actually started in Europe. Yeah. So I won an award as a young filmmaker. We were in Denmark, and then the AU was there. A lot of filmmakers and journalists from Africa were there. And then we discovered people couldn't even go back to their homes of origin in Africa because they did films or because they were doing journalism. And then everybody had their kind of problems and all of that. The AU, together brainstorming with we Africans in the hall, decided that there be an institute that can be able to connect the countries, because Africa has 55 countries on the continent, and then diaspora is so huge and all of that. So that's what brought about the African Film Institute. That was around 2019, before COVID in 2020. So the African Film Institute was, the first thing was to work with the African Union. We started with the Division of Culture and then of Education, Media, and now we're Youth and Women Affairs as well. So with all of these branches, the idea is not to build a gigantic film institute all over there. A lot of those scattered in Africa. While Nigeria, South Africa, and maybe Kenya, Burkina Faso have a lot, you will find out that maybe in Seychelles, there's none of that film school. So for us, we felt, okay, we're gonna innovate, make sure we move the traffic from where is a lot, let expatriates from country A meet with expatriates from, the other country, and then build, and that's what we've been doing. And then we are very conscious about diaspora. So as it is now, as at last year, we opened an office in Paris, France, and then there's one here in Germany, so like that. So for us, it's about liaisons, and then most of our expatriates get to teach in the indigenous schools scattered around Africa. Myself, I think I have a couple, like about 5, that I have to make an appointment to meet up, from Nigeria to Burkina Faso to elsewhere. So,
Terry, if you don't mind me saying, this is... let's just contextualize this, because, I think we need to get an understanding of what a vast territory the African continent is, in terms of the many different countries. Then you're also talking about liaising with the diaspora and essentially helping to develop, train, etc., all of these various regions. What does this actually look like? I'd like, and this is something that will be pertinent to you as well, Zaid, but Terry, let's begin with you and let's talk about what that looks like, because it's sort of, to gloss over it in the way that we stand the danger of doing would not be doing us justice. Let's talk about the day-to-day activities and what elements are being implemented in what spaces, and then we can get to the results after that. But what are the activities, firstly?
Okay, so the activities. Now, it's first innovations. But we now discovered along the line, because we were from the House of the African Union, the AU diplomacy quickly crept in. So before you tell country X that you're coming to the country, there's a liaison between the film school here and here to teach. They want to know what, because in Africa, as it is now, you're a filmmaker, you are a journalist, you're an endangered species, because we have a lot of democracies that are just a facade. So people are very conscious about the filmmaker. We're kind of troublesome.
Okay, so there's a political
so the diplomatic, we call that. So we liaise with the government. We have to tell the government of country X, look, we mean no harm. We just know there's a lot of learning that wants to happen in your country. And just next door, 3 countries apart, we can organize the lecturers and the instructors. And we're very passionate about practicing filmmakers. We don't want to make mistakes that have happened around the world. We like our instructors. Some don't even have a diploma in film, but they're good, they're award winners, they know the stuff. Those are the kind of guys we move, so they transfer the knowledge between the budget and the time that is. So our job is to move from country A to B. And most times, some of these guys are diaspora. That's where the diaspora. So thank God for technology and all of that. They don't need to travel from Germany or Paris, and then they're there in Burkina Faso, and we're seeing eye to eye, and then the questions are being answered there. So our activities now, diplomacy became one of our top activities instead of the traditional training programs. But we're working on that. There are people in charge of the everyday certificate courses. Degrees were not part of it at first, but masters and postgraduates. So that is on another session. I just oversee a bit of that. So
fantastic. And Zaid, if you could talk me through a little bit about the practical day-to-day machinations of your institution.
Yeah, I think before starting to provide some details about the day-to-day activity, I'd like to frame what's happening in Saudi. For example, if we go back 8 years ago, there weren't cinemas in Saudi. I remember 2018 was the first screening. I believe it was Black Panther, Wakanda, and it was the first opening of cinemas in Saudi. Now we have 800 cinemas. And the national target for cinemas expansion in Saudi is to double that, like reaching 1,600 cinemas by 2030. If you look at the Middle East, which is an emerging market for the screen industry, Saudi holds 42% of the gross PO box office revenue.
32%.
42%. 42% of all of the revenue within the Middle East is from Saudi. So this gives you some sort of optics to see that there is some sort of an appetite for the content industry, for the screen industry, for all of the audiovisual content. And if you want to zoom further, you will realize that also local content is competing. So for example, in the last week, a Saudi film called Hubal was thrown as like the biggest PO box office hit within the history of Saudi. So there is definitely demand. When you see a local film, which is number one in terms of returns, it means that there's also specificity into what the audience wants. Now, when we say film, it's the film industry, it's a film sector. So this film sector has direct impact on everything: economics, culture, politics, everything. AlUla, as a cinematic wonder, this amazing location, it's captivating. We've had, since establishment, we've been inspected back in 2021. We've been working for like 3 or 4 years now. We've had more than 1,500 projects. We've had feature films, we've had TV series, we've had different commercials and productions from those. We've had a film called K-Pops, where it was had some scenes shot in AlUla. We've had Kandahar, it was a commercial box release. We've had co-productions like the film Siwar by it was a Turkish-Saudi production by Osama al-Khuraiji. We've had the film Hijra by Hafz Amin. So there has been lots of films. In addition to this, we've been working on building a cutting-edge infrastructure. So basically, our day-to-day activities, going back to the first question, is basically putting on the cap of a film regulator, putting on the cap of a film institution that teaches cinema culture, and also uphoning and upskilling the skills of the youth. Because at the end of the day, it's not about access to finance, it's about having the local crew force. So our daily remits includes talking to producers, directors, issuing permits, arranging with coordinators, doing training workshops, liaising and attending such very important symposiums and film festivals to spread and streamline what's happening.
Absolutely. Well, firstly, congratulations on this phenomenal growth and the work that you're doing. Now,
thank you.
I guess I want to kind of, when you have such a rapid explosion in terms of from coming, from what seemed to be a very limited sort of cinematic output, certainly, if not culture, certainly to this immense wave, then let's talk about, if we will, the development and the upscaling and this upskilling, if you will, of the community. How has that been received? Has it been overwhelming? Is it something that is... Can you talk us through what that looks like practically?
Yeah. So AlUla as a location, it's very rich with a vast amount of historical and cultural and heritage sites.
Right.
So basically, and it's not a greenfield project. Like there is like now, I think it's 65,000 residents within AlUla. So basically, the local community is at the heart of everything we do. So as a new emerging sector within AlUla, in order to be able to grow and have this organic growth and sort of go back to the community and sort of help contribute to the ambitious targets of the kingdom, the centerpiece of everything is the local community. Because at the end of the day, they are the safe guardians. As a place rich of heritage and historical sites, it's important for us to recruit them to sort of work on their cultural aspects of working with this international productions, regional productions, to be able to receive, to be able to speak this highly cultural language, yet extremely technical. So basically, you always have to start with baby steps. But as long as you have a proper strategy and you are organized. So you've mentioned this explosive growth. I beg to differ. It's basically very, very organic, and we are taking our steps so that eventually we don't end up introducing elephant in rooms. For example, we have recently, around a year ago, finalized the constructions of our studio facility, which is a world-class cutting-edge facility. It has 2 sound stages. Approximately each sound stage is around 2,400 square meters. So basically, we didn't just start and build film studios. We started doing the pre-planning for this after hosting, having more than, as I said, 1,200 projects, realizing that there is proper demand. And it's not just about scale up, it's about organic growth. So that whatever you introduce is basically informed, but what you can provide.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you for the clarity on that. And it's wonderful to hear. And in fact, you know, I think, Terry, there's elements of that which resonates in terms of the African continent or diaspora context there, because and there's another thing that you both have in common as well, that your communities, I know that the African continent is largely cited as the African continent is one of the spaces that has the youngest sort of population. And so in that regard, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how is that being managed, Terry, in terms of the youth, when you have such a large youth market, and for a variety of reasons, we've lost the continuity of passing down information intergenerationally. How is that being managed, would you say?
Yeah, you're an intergenerational person. I know that. So, from the history of Africa, the way we pass information, when we were growing up and in film schools, they taught us that perhaps that is the weakness because it was from father to son and then from mother to daughter, from word of mouth. So we fail to record most of our history and all of that. And that's why it is a weakness, but we have found strength in that. And that just makes us have an advantage in terms of storytelling. Because we understand, I can tell you 1,000 stories, literally. Yeah, you grew up hearing stories, everything is about stories, you know, myths are converted into stories.
It does help that you were once an actor, and in fact...
Yeah, so the young population of our statistics is showing us about 75% out of 1.4 billion Africans are below the age of 35. That's very young, techie, and they are access. And that is why we tell those in market. If I were to ask a question about the panel, you know, before we got into this, is a figure that you can't get in any of the other continents. I stand corrected, but you look at it, it's a figure you cannot get in Asia, North, South, and all of that. It rests in Africa, where you have millions of people with access to the internet and with a phone. They make it sound like it's a backyard. It's some other country. I tell you, it's 55 countries and then diaspora. So it could as well be 100 countries. And then this population is young, is in millions. That is the reason the music culture succeeded. It's because it leveraged on it, and anywhere in the world you go, you hear there's an Afro stuff. The film guys were just trying to find our way there. And that is the question we get asked a lot about the market. I don't want to change the direction.
I'll let you continue, but I just want to, when you mention things like the musical market, for example, we have to just make sure that everyone's keeping up here. And we're talking about Afrobeats, which is essentially taking the place of hip hop, or certainly interacting with hip hop to now be the cultural force and dominant force in the music space.
Yeah.
Please continue, sir.
Okay, good. So it's like a trade secret I'm about to give you. Thank you, Prudence, for bringing the guys. They're the special ones, so they're permitted to get the secrets, right? So the oil guys knew this. Where do you chase oil to where it goes? The Middle East was there. It was discovered first elsewhere, but they know the future is here in the Middle East. And the early investors got there. You know, you can't shake it off. No, with war and all of that, already cashing. So the same thing, whether we like it or not on earth as it is, the future of its cinema now has to rest in the hands of Africa. It's the youngest population in millions. And they are the deciding factor. So music has just shown you. Film is coming right next to it. And how do we do that? You know? So for us, the thing is the youth are the engine room of that. You understand? And that's why even at the big AU, they've agreed that yes, he can be young and do it. Because I've gone on diplomatic missions in some countries and I entered, they said, okay, so where is the boss? Is going to come. I said, okay, actually, if you wanted the guy with the stomach and all of that, it's politics. But if you wanted work, then you got me. So we're doing this or what? And then you understand, because I can go at it all day. I can have just 2 hours sleep in 48 hours. We're good to go. The other guy needs to snore first. He needs to do all of that before he gets the stuff moving. So we have realized lately that the future is the young population, is our advantage. And one of the things we discovered, Rodney, is that culture is, there are 3 levels of development: political, environmental, economical, then cultural. This is where Europe is. Europe moved even security through the ranks from political, environmental to cultural. And that's why they are rest, like, you know. Africa is still trying to think it's political. They have how many terms? Maybe 8 years at best, if you read the elections and all of that, you know. So cultural is the agenda. When you push a thing, it works. And this is where film resides. And that is why it is pivotal at this moment that we take the young population very seriously. You see our country directors, one from the USA, if you check the person in Senegal, the other person in Canada, it's not a segregation and all. Most of them are young because they have the energy to go all day to look at things the way they are to be, to, you know, take off the bureaucracy and let's keep moving. Like I said, the African Film Institute was founded on innovation. So we know, you know, see Saudi here has gotten a lot of structure. We are coming, you know, it's years apart. So for us, we're using innovation. Like if we get into Senegal, there's no need to go start a club when there's already a club. The reason if I come here, I will rest with Afro Berlin. It's Afro, it's African. So it's already a house. We walk right into it. If we go to Cannes, there's Afro Cannes, we're there.
Absolutely. What I will say is I do look forward to these sorts of collaborations that will be happening. Zaid, please go
definitely. And I really admire the passion, Terry. And I want to say that the youth are always at the heart of everything. And what I would say, it's always to try, and this is what we do. We think of it as a blue ocean strategy. I'm very sorry about this very, very boring terminology. It's just that blue ocean strategy is that you don't have to place yourself as if you're with a competition with anyone. It's not a competition. This is, when you say film, you're talking culture, you're talking cultural assimilation. So there are so many aspects to this, whether you're structured, whether you're organic. At the end of the day, substance follows form. So basically, the youth are very, very important. Like everything you've mentioned is basically arsenal for you to achieve your objectives. And we are looking forward for seeing Africa flourishing and seeing this African Film Institute. And we're also always open to all sorts of by-productions, like co-productions is something we really aspire to. What I'd like to say is that the most important thing from our optics is youth. You kept on saying youth. Saudi in itself is a very, very youthful country. Like it's a kingdom very rich with youth. And when you mentioned, for example, when I just said that 8 years ago we didn't have cinemas, so you can imagine this very important platform that helps you communicate and export your cultural product across everywhere. So we always go attend the Red Sea Film Festival, and I remember when we go to the film markets and see the pitches of the youth, it's an amazing energy. And this amazing energy will enforce you to engulf and envelop all of these challenges as long as you are structured and moving organically. Yeah.
As I'm all too aware, the time is flying by, and we have so much to cover, or so much I would like to cover. But we're sitting here in Berlin at the EFM, and ultimately, I'd like you, both of you, to touch upon the access points to the international community. I'm a filmmaker sitting here in Germany, or in France, or UK, US, wherever in the world, the Caribbean. What would the opportunities to collaborate, what do they look like in real terms with your organizations? I'll start with you, Zaid.
Our focus first starts when it comes to the creative aspect of things. Like, we're not positioning ourselves as a niche, but we always refer to AlUla as the world's largest open museum. So basically, we want to make sure that this beautiful, breathtaking backdrop aligns seamlessly with creative content. We have excellent cutting-edge infrastructures. We have rebates and incentives, which is something very important and sort of catalyzes co-productions. And also, as in the previous panel, it was mentioned that this is a very important driving force. But in addition to this, one of the most important things is basically the local crew and how you can upskill and train the local force. So basically, one of the most important magnets for us when we have an international production coming or co-production coming is basically how we can use this international production to upskill and train. So all of these aspects, like access to finance through incentivization and rebates, infrastructure, creative content, are all access points.
And Terry, in terms of your region and the international communities being able to access and maybe assist or learn from, whatever ways the collaboration might exist.
Yeah, so for us, we believe competition is kind of the old stuff. Collaboration is the new, the woke thing to do. So we feel like competition is a bit outdated. Collaboration is a woke thing. So for us, that is it. And that is the reason, our MOUs can be signed on a train, like the 3-minute speech, literally. So what are we going to do together? 1, 2, 3 is there on paper. I got the digital signature. You put yours and we'll go, because that is how it needs to move. We know our history. As Africans, especially dealing with the motherland, the continent, it's such a black hole. It's a difficult thing. I can see guys in the room. I see Ravi there. I see Sasha. They know how difficult it is to want to push an agenda back in Africa. Ravi has produced TV series like Superman there in Kenya. And, but he can tell you the challenges, So in Africa, we say just know a guy, When you know the guy that can talk to the Baba here and talk to the Mama there, it will work for you. Madam Chioma Ode is sitting there of Afro. That's a powerful woman right there on the second row. You give her a call, say, Chioma, I want to enter into Nigeria. He say, okay, so you want to start with the president or something? He said, no, not the president. I need the Ministry of Culture. I say, okay, we can have dinner. It can be that easy for us in Africa. So for us, we're open. Like he said, we're open here. We want to bring you into Africa. You kind of accuse the young people of Africa, starting from Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, that they are putting a facade for fraud and all of that. But, well, that is the tool you have. You didn't take a visa to go there. They can't get a visa to meet you in Europe. It's like going to heaven, trying to get a Schengen visa for Africans. I'm telling you, go to social media and you see it. So they were leveraging on the internet, leveraging on some of the guys we have, like in the US, like yourself and all of that. We started by building a database. We're hoping it comes out as fast as every year. We thought it would be out as our last year, where we as an institute working with the African Union just collect where the producers, distributors, and filmmakers of Africa can be found worldwide. then you have a push a button to scroll to where you want to go. We feel like we should have such a thing. UNESCO tried it and failed at it. They tried to do that. They gave 2 years for it. They couldn't research and put together a database. So we are hoping to come up with a robust database that gives you, when you come to us, where do you want to go? You know, Africa, we know we're being misrepresented on the map. It's big, so big that you need to be specific. I want to go to the north, to the south, to the east, to the west. Then we point you in that direction. We tell you, we got a guy there. Call this guy, move from there. So for us, in terms of we're that open, even on social media, if you go to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, it's now X. And all of that, you ping us, there'll be somebody to reply you. There are youths watching out there. Hello, we want to work. Where are you calling from? And then we'll see where the conversation leads. So we're that open.
I just wanted to take a moment to actually anchor something that you said, which is about the visa. And you made it very, with your usual sense of humor and charm, you made it rather, innocent. But the reality of the situation is that one of our moderators of this section, who's coming from Ghana, couldn't get his visa approved. I've been attending the Berlinale now for some 17 years or so. I started when I was about 3, I think. And so in that time, I've lost count of the amount of filmmakers or filmmaker-adjacent individuals who couldn't actually get into the country. So that has to be factored in some way in terms of the actual barriers to entry within a kind of commercial film space. And so just wanted to underscore that so it can be stated on the record. I'd also like to kind of just find out, because I know time is flying, I'm getting signals coming in. I want to know, what is the vision for the future? Because, and in that, if we can also, is there a call to action? Is there a particular request that's going out to the international community who'll be watching? But most importantly, Zaid, if you can tell me, what is your vision for the future?
Yeah. Our vision is basically positioning AlUla as a landmark hub globally for the screen industry. So in order to capitalize on this, we're utilizing a dual approach where we focus on international and regional productions from a side and local productions at the other side. Because eventually the more you can accompany international productions, the more you will have the juice to be able to sort of hone and support local productions, especially with the knowledge sharing, especially with the training and shadowing programs. So the maturity of the local industry will be a byproduct. So basically, we're looking at this, we're looking at scaling up our infrastructure based on the demand we are building, and basically having a much bigger cultural export. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think that is so urgently needed, because as a production company, Perennial Lens, we're based in Germany, London, and Los Angeles. And I do know that in certain cultures, the misrepresentation that exists of your region is absolutely criminal. So it is absolutely invaluable and necessary that we do get a representation that is actually produced from within. So local to global, as we say, that is absolutely urgent and imperative. And for you, Terry, the future, what are your thoughts? What are you seeing?
Just like him, you see, it is a kind of shared vision from local to global, except we sit under a bigger tree. Our tree is kind of like everywhere. So what like he said from the beginning, we want to believe in the little wins. For instance, as at last year in the Afro Berlin, we're talking about co-production. I can tell you categorically that good news, by this year, we've already had the German, Nigerian, US co-production born out of here on a TV series that was even recommended for the Berlin series market. So yeah, yeah. So for the future, we want to use our cultural background and all of that to tap into the tech to make sure bureaucracy is yanked off, and let's work as much as we can so that we catch up as fast as we can. And then from local, local might be France, say an Africa based in France, wanting to go global, just like we did it in music. We can't do it in film. A matter of fact, it's the new oil. Don't forget that. So it's the right place to invest and all of that. So we're looking at a great future. For us, we're sure it can be done. In fact, it's been done before, can be done.
Absolutely. I know that we have questions coming up, so please get those ready. And before, is that correct? We still have time for questions. Okay, good. I'd like to, are there any kind of, if I am an individual looking to co-produce with you at AlUla, are there any kind of cultural specificities or things that I should know immediately? Obviously, you have great incentives. You've got wonderful crew, the most beautiful of locations, for example. But are there any things that we would need to know so that, you know, one isn't taken by surprise? And not just, this isn't a question that's specific to your region. It would be the very same if I was talking about any other territory. But it's always useful to be able to speak to that. Can you speak to anything that would be necessary to know culturally? And that could be very positive, by the way.
Yeah, Saudi has been very, very progressive in terms of culture-wise. And I do believe that there are so many specificities within every culture or every destination where you have to sort of streamline some film specifics. And I think that this is usually addressed ad hocly based on every project. So we do have the creative prowess to be able to sort of guide through producers, co-producers into how to sort of acclimate, how to address this.
So I guess an add-on would be that there are the appropriate channels at which that would all be addressed. I guess in a similar way, Terry, is there a sort of, you know, is there an actual...
Yeah, you're correct. So we sit on 54 countries just on the continent and then diaspora, Caribbean, all of that. So we have been able to, through research, gather what, you know, here you cannot do this and that and that. Yeah. So we know the right people to get you in touch with, which if you email or you call directly might never get through. Yeah. So such is the situation in some of our territories for Africans. But when we get you to the right person, like he said, it's like on an ad hoc, a case-by-case situation. They tell you, okay, this kind of story here and here for this country right now, politically or religious-wise, or it cannot. So we help with those kind of consultations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if I may add, I think it's especially that all of us here are mainly working in film or filmmakers. Something you realize when you work in film agencies and film commissions is that there's never always a one-size solution for everything. So everything is usually channeled based on its context. Yeah.
I'm getting the sign that we don't have time for any questions. Just one question, unfortunately. We're almost out of time, as I feared. Does anyone have a question? Are there any hands? I see some hands.
Zaid, I'm Sydney Levine. You talk local to global. In the 65,000 residents of AlUla, are you training them in crewing and directing and writing?
As we speak, we have a delegation of 10 students who have attended like immense training workshops and training programs for below the line skills, and they are currently in Paris attending actual productions. And once they come, this is a very good question, Sydney. So basically, we add this within every incentives we offer to productions coming. So in order to incentivize you as a production, you have to sort of train youth. So the short answer is yes. The long answer is definitely yes. Yeah.
The second one for Terry. Is
Okay.
a question for Terry?
Okay.
Public.
Last question.
For Terry? No? So let's move forward. Oh, she has.
You might have the same question. Are you doing training when you know you're sending someone over there? Do you bring in some interns and whatever?
Yeah, well, big on internship. I did it myself. Most of the guys in Seychelles now, there are people scheduled to come to Paris, to our office there. If the visa doesn't look like going to heaven, so it's happening everywhere, yeah, internship. And for us, because it's multiple countries, so it's happening in tens and maybe hundreds if we can, yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our panel. I'd like you to put your hands together for Zaid and Terry, and thank you for being here. And please spread the word and let people know that we're here for the next 3 days. There's Afro Berlin and Afro Music Days. So please spread the word, let everybody know. Thank you.